What's going on, everybody? It's your boy KRYPTONIAN saying here, bringing you guys another Black Clover chapter review for Black Clover Chapter 339. And man, did Black Clover throw us for a loop with this newest setup chapter, because our boy Asta, his training arc is finally underway, and Lucious is not going to know what hit him, or rather, Lucious is not going to know what cut him, because Asta's training is shaping up to be something very serious when you really look at it. The chapter opens up with Asta interacting with Yami's younger sister, and Asta quickly learns that Ichika's hands aren't rated E for everyone, but instead they're rated A for Asta. Just as Yami tends to grab Asta by the face whenever he gets annoyed by Asta, Yami's sister does the exact same thing. She gives Asta the death glare from hell and quickly sinks any ships of Asta and Ichika being a thing, because she flat out goes hard on Asta. First, while Asta's squirming around, she's gripping the man's face so hard that veins are popping out of her hand, and when she says that she doesn't care about that playful man either, after Asta declares he never heard of Yami having a younger sister, the glare that she's giving this man, if looks could kill, Asta would be dead. As the two of them continue to have their one-sided quarrel, we see the others in the background openly discussing what they're seeing, or rather who they're seeing in the form of Asta, because they notice right away that something is off with Asta. They remark about his hair color looking a bit different, which leads to one of them saying he must be a foreigner, to them noticing that Asta's arm is a bit different, which, yikes. Whoever said that just won the award for saying the most blatantly obvious thing that you've ever seen in Black Clover. However, Asta doesn't have to worry about being the center of attention for far too long here, because the scene then shifts over to Asta being reunited at long last with his brother Libe. It turns out that Libe the entire time was being attended to by a genius of recovery, a man named Mercuria, and it's here that we see a little bit more of the world building, because this kind of implies that in this part of the world they haven't seen devils, or if they have, it's been such a long time ago, because Mercuria states that this is the first time he's even worked on a creature such as Libe. Now, what's fascinating about this is that it just expanded the world building that we get here, and now that the pacing has slowed down a bit, after having started the arc off with the foot on the gas, we can see more of how this land differs from the continent where the Clover Kingdom is. After we get that heartwarming scene where Asta is at the top of his enthusiasm of meeting Libe again, where he's telling him how grateful he is to see him and now that he's okay, and how lonely everything must have been when they were separated, we get to see Libe blushing and returning the favor, which, wow, that does two things. That probably means that in this moment Libe was probably getting a flashback to Lichta hugging him, but also if you go back and you look at when Asta and Libe were first throwing down in front of Noct, and then we look at everything that's taken to get us up to this point where we're at currently, this is a great narrative payoff. Our boy Asta started the story off as an orphan who had a person who was like a brother to him in Yuno, who was at his side, and now at the final arc, as he's going through the challenges ahead, he has someone who for all intents and purposes is his brother, because Libe was raised by Asta's birth mom. As Asta eats the food that was prepared for him by Mercuria, Asta's mind begins to shift over towards what happened in the Clover Kingdom, thinking about his battle with Lucious and the fate of Sister Lily, and what its absence might very well mean to the others left behind in the Clover Kingdom itself. With wide eyes brim-filled with emotion, Asta asks and he pleads with the shogun of the city, thinking to himself he has to save Sister Lily, to which Asta is reassured that there's still time to make things right. And when Asta begins to start allowing his emotion to get the better of him and raising his voice to the shogun and openly doubting himself to the point where he's thinking, I trained my entire life to be strong, maybe this is as strong as I can get, maybe I'm a failure, that's when Yami's sister slaps some respect and some knowledge into Asta, and she gives me a very stern reality check by stating that she doesn't know what happened in Asta's homeland, and she doesn't care if Asta runs off and get himself killed, but she basically tells him to be grateful for still being alive, and that's huge. So basically this works to teach Asta, someone who's on the path to becoming Wizard King, a very valuable lesson. You can't be impatient, or else you'll always be reacting to your enemy. If you're always reacting, you'll never be able to see the entire chessboard before you make your next move. Most importantly, you need to learn to appreciate the things that are in front of you, that are precious, that you can still protect, and appreciate what others have provided for you. After nearly dying in the battle against Lucious, Asta being alive is a precious gift, as is Libe, his brother, being alive as well. Protecting that life that Ryuya and Mercuria worked so hard to try to preserve for Asta is something that Asta must calm down to fully understand and accept. Yami's sister is a bit hard around the edges, but she's wise, and I think that that's something that Asta needs right now. you can definitely see how she and Yami are related. Now the scene then shifts over and we see Asta beginning to start training with Yami's sister, and this is where things start to get interesting. As the Shogun begins to start explaining everything to Asta, we see Yami's sister take up the pose and we see the aura flowing around her body as she begins to focus, and we see the color of her arm begin to change as the aura grows denser, and Asta with his very eyes sees what's taking place right before it happens. With one swipe of the arm, Yami's sister has sliced open a stalk of bamboo, only she didn't use her sword to do so. Asta is drawn downright stunned by what he's seen, and as Ryuya begins to explain to him how Yami's sister manipulated her ki through her body into her hand and sliced the bamboo. The way that this is explained is that we're told that ki is a flow of vital energy that everyone manipulates to a degree in order to output. Like for instance, unconsciously manipulating ki in order to output magic, if you will. He instructs Asta that you have to concentrate and feel the ki and do so deliberately with high precision and then release it all at once. Now this is really interesting right here because this does open up the door for Yami's ki control to not be anywhere near as good as it should be, but given the circumstances on how he ended up in the Clover Kingdom, it makes a lot of sense. Yami still had a lot to learn before he ended up in the Clover Kingdom. When you see Asta looking down at his hands, Asta performs the exact same action. Only at first when you look at him do so, you don't think that you're seeing anything happen, but there's a delay in what's happened. Much to the shock of everyone except for Ryuya, Asta doesn't just slice the bamboo, he downright destroys a part of the bamboo that he slices, withering it away, which leads to the Shogun laughing, stating that the bamboo is not supposed to wither due to the properties that it has, and congratulates Asta on the feat. Asta then goes on to thank them for starting his training and further begs for their assistance and helping him grow stronger. What's crazy about all this is that Asta's final sword that we're going to see him get, it isn't going to be a brand new sword or anything. The sword is going to be his own body, which makes a lot of sense narratively when you think about it. Long before Asta got his anti-magic sword, Asta spent years training and honing his body through physical training. Push-ups, sit-ups, running, jogging, whatever you can think of. So why wouldn't his body, the very first thing he began to work on, be the last thing or one of the last things that he adds to his arsenal in terms of improvement before he becomes the Wizard King? It's a nice way to bring everything back full circle. Bulging muscles in his body, anti-magic at his disposal, and a much deeper understanding of ki. Asta is going to be a problem for Lucious. Asta eventually being able to use the anti-magic flowing throughout his entire body on its own and not needing a sword paired up with the ki techniques that he's about to learn, it's going to catch Lucious way off guard. It's going to be funny to see Asta performing ki techniques that even Yami doesn't know about. It's also fitting that Yami left at a younger age and likely didn't complete his own training in ki. There was only so much that he could actually teach Asta, which means by default there's only so much that Lucious is going to know about ki, which makes this an even bigger plot twist and a brilliant decision by Tabata to choose this to be Asta's training grounds. The door is now opened up to Asta doing a few things. You can see Asta throwing hands with Lucious in a rematch where those hands are now infused with anti-magic, which is another thing that Lucious will have to account for. It also potentially opens up the door to a perfected devil union, one without restrictions, if he's able to project anti-magic throughout his entire body. Same with potentially making an anti-magic barrier that is wrapped around him. There's an unlimited road of potential for Asta to go down. The decision by Tabata to stay here in the Land of Sun is a very smart decision. While we do want to know what happens off screen with the other characters like Yuno and Lucious and etc., this is still very much important to see what we're seeing right here. The world building, the key explanation, and the attention to Asta's feelings when he says things like, I trained my whole life, maybe I can't get any stronger, and then being given a renewed sense of hope at the end of the chapter. All that's needed. It'll be way too weird pacing wise to jump back and forth between the Clover Kingdom and with what's happening now with Asta's training. Sometimes less is more, and I'm glad that we're going that route right here. I can see people getting a little annoyed, but this was the right time to take your foot off the gas. You need to set things up before you go full steam ahead. Overall, this chapter accomplishes its goal, in my opinion, as a setup chapter, and it opens up the door for Yami to get an improvement as he fights alongside Asta again in the near future. Given Asta can pass down what it is that he learns to Yami, I think that's something that we're going to see Tabata start leaning heavier towards when it comes to having ki be something taught to others as a way to bring down Lucious. But it'll start most likely with Asta and Yami, which brings me to my chapter question. Do you want Asta to pass down this info to Yami or somebody else? How high is Asta's ceiling if he can learn everything possible in the Land of Sun? While you think that over, click here to watch my other Black Clover videos.